good morning. This is me back in my lovely creative space, and I hope maybe you're in yours somewhere, or you're just sitting in a comfy chair with a cup of tea. Good morning, wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it is. Welcome to my lovely peaceful place, and I'm sending peace and love to you all today, from across the world or from down the road, wherever you are. It's lovely to know you're there. I love to share this space with you, and knowing you're there has increased my creativity. I can't even say it. My creativity massively, because doing this video every week means I have what's the word? Grit in the oyster. I always call it grit in the oyster. And it's that thing that just nudges you, isn't it? That just makes you do it. Because so often, I think when we want to do something creative, we go, oh, I better wait until I've done 114 other jobs, and then I will allow myself to go and do this really nice thing for myself. Whether it's going for a walk or sitting and eating a bar of chocolates with a book or whatever it is, I think we're very good at procrastinating and saying, I don't deserve to do this now, I better clean the kitchen floor first. And if it makes you feel any better, actually I did clean my kitchen floor yesterday. It's suddenly, I'd been away for a couple of days and I came back and I thought, my goodness, this place is an absolute tip. So I actually got the Hoover out, and there was so much grit and mud, because our back door actually, it goes out onto, it's basically a lane, so, and we have very muddy boots that come in and out, so it was a bit of a mess, and I felt much better for doing it. And yeah, so I have done my kitchen floor, but as a general rule of thumb, I try and do the nice things first. So if there's a pile of dishes in the sink, I'll go, well, do I want to do those now, or shall I go and do this nice thing, have a cup of tea, go for a walk, and then when I come back I find that doing the dishes in the sink just is an absolute doddle, because I'm happy and pleased to be doing it, because I've pleased myself first. It's like I've filled myself up first. I've loved myself and filled myself up, and then I've got everything to give to everybody else. And often I'll put some nice music on, and then doing the dishes is, as I say, is just a joy to do, because I'm pleasing myself first. So anyway, that's just the way I'm doing things in my life. You're obviously in your world doing whatever you're doing, but I do hope that maybe you're giving yourself some pleasure, some downtime and some relaxation before you get snarled up in all those 101 jobs that just seem to need doing, and all the things that keep coming at us. So I think it's just lovely to be here with you all, as I say, and I think what we're going to be doing today is, I haven't quite finished with this little project. I feel as though there's more to be done. I've really enjoyed creating these little pieces. This is what we did last week. Loved doing those. They really took me into a very creative place, a very peaceful creative zone, and I was very interested to see how differently they turned out, and how doing one and then doing another, doing this one, kind of informed what I did with this one. So it was like a learning process, and I've learned by doing this one what I might do with a further one down the line if I was to do that again. So I think what I'd like to do is revisit these samples and just see what I might do with them next. So please, we're going to sit here at my table and mess about with some more fabrics. Okay, so here is my little sample, and I've just been thinking about these samples that I've made. I was thinking, well, could I turn them into something? Because I'm quite pleased with some of them. I think they've turned out really well. They're very free. They're very, sort of exactly they've done what they said on the tin. They gave me an opportunity to play and do something interesting. So I'm looking at this, and I found this lovely card, which I'll show you. This is a card by a local artist here in Cumbria, and she is called Ros Dyson, and I'll put a link to her website below. She does all sorts of things. She does textiles and print and really interesting things, and I like her work very much. And I just thought, it's like a landscape, and I was looking at these and thinking, well, could these, what I feel I would like to put into this is something like a moon. I'm thinking, well, could you put a moon in? If you start putting something like that in, and then you perhaps put a bit of something down as a foreground, and then you take your little frame and you go, ooh, that's quite nice. I don't like the yellow. What about if I put a bit of that colour in? Ooh, it suddenly creates this sort of rather magical landscape, which I think is really intriguing. And it can be anything. This is out of my head. This is just making the use of what I've got, and it makes these look like trees, doesn't it? And I think that's really quite magical. It's like they're huge, they're giant, and they're transformed by adding something into the mix. So the other thing I thought I would try was I took a little bit of this lovely orangey fabric and I drew myself a little circle and I've cut out a shape, and I've just lost it. Here we go. Oh, it's got itself snagged up over here. Here we go. Move that out of the way. So I've got this lovely fabric here, which is the same as this, and I was thinking, well, do I want a little moon? It could be the sun. I think it's the moon, but you know, it could be the sun, whatever. It's a planet in the sky, and it's adding into the picture. It's adding into the imagination of whatever this is going to be. So I've got this orangey fabric, and what I've done is I drew around. I put some adhesive, what do you call it, stuff on, Bondaweb stuff, adhesive webbing or something it's called. It's basically a glue which glues one fabric to another. When you take the paper backing off, we can iron this on. So I've done a little semicircle. You can see the remains of it there, and over here attached to something else I have got the little semicircle. So I think, well, I could use a little moon, or what if I did, which is what we get here, is I can watch from my lounge window, or from here in fact, from my studio, I can watch the moon rising at night, and it comes up behind the hills across the valley, and it's absolutely lovely. And I think, ooh, now that I rather like. So I was thinking, well, do I want this? And I think yes. Or do you add a bit of, would you add a bit of that in somewhere into the mix as well, and have a little bit of kind of moonlight going on in the foreground? Or you could do that with a bit of stitching, or is that, perhaps that's a little bit too much of the orangey colour. Maybe the thing to do is to add, and I thought, well, maybe I'll add a few tree, as though there's some trees or a hedgerow going along, and as though they're kind of across the face of the moon, if you like. So we'll just put that back on there. So I think I've got you at a very odd angle. I'm just going to try and straighten you up here, guys. I know I've got you at a very odd angle there, but never mind. It's the angle of the dangle. Let's just see if we can twiddle you around a bit. So let's see if I can make that a bit closer and squarer for you to see. So, what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? I think that's a bit too central in the middle. I don't think you want the moon right in the middle. Perhaps off to one side a bit. I don't know, it's like, ooh, where would you put it? Would you have it? I don't think you want it bang in the middle, really. This is where playing comes in. This is me just playing around. Instead of doing a drawing and colouring it in, I'm using my fabrics and my threads, and I'm messing about and I'm playing with it. And I think, well, actually something like that's quite nice. And if I could maybe make this so it's kind of quite textured in front, because I think that would be quite nice. And then you've got a little bit of sheen coming off here. I don't know if you can see that really. It's kind of got a sheen where the light catches this fabric underneath. It's got a sheen to it, and as I say, you could possibly add a bit of that in as well, or a little line of moonlight, but I think that would be a bit too much. I could perhaps do something, if I was doing this as a scene on water, I would do some sort of stitching to make the moonlight on the water. So I think I'm going to stitch this and put it together and see if I like it. So as we're busy doing a series of samples here, what I've done is I've done myself a mini sample here, because I just really wasn't sure how I wanted this to look. So I've done myself a little mini sample which I'm going to sort of offer up to this, so I can get some idea of what it might look like. So what I've done is I've stitched it down around the edge. I've put a bit of stitching around the edge, but I've also done zigzag on this one and no zigzag on that one. I'm not sure I like either of them particularly. It's not quite doing it for me, but I'm just wondering whether it makes me think, what else could I do? How else could I do it that would work better than this? Okay, so in the end what I went for was I ironed a little bit of the stabilizer fabric that I use, the papery stuff. I ironed a little bit of that onto there, leaving an edge with some glue available, and I've basically ironed that on there slightly, so there's a little edge that's held down, and then I've stitched across the base. And I think that's fine. I think that's good enough. It's a picture and it's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be serious. It's not serious art. This is me just messing about and seeing what I can come up with. And I think then we can stitch this down, and then we can add a little bit of blue on top, and that will be just fine. I think we put the little thingy back on. I keep checking with this because this helps to keep it in the frame. Might move that down a little bit. You know, mess about till you get it to where you want it to be. It might be that we'll have some trees, as though that's trees in front of the moon, kind of sticking up, and then you have a bit of the brown fabric. You see, it's just different. Every time you look, you get something different. Every time you play with it, you get something different. And I like that. It's fun. So I'm going to take this over and do some stitching and get it finished. Okay, so I have got a dark brown thread in my top, and I'm just going to stitch along this line, which is going to get covered up anyway when I put the blue, nice blue textured fabric on, which is great. It's really perfect. It's going to just cover up a multitude of sins, as they say. I'm just doing this gently and carefully so that it doesn't ruffle. Oops. And I'm thinking what I might just do is just do some random stitching now. Just go like this and do a bit of random stitching. There we go. Oh, isn't that lush? Oh, that's just quilted that so nicely. I love that bit. It's just so quilty. So I'm just trimming it up a little bit. I just want to make it a little bit tidier on the top here. And those of you with hawk eyes will notice that I added some more backing onto it because I decided I was making it into a picture. There wasn't enough wadding and backing on, so I just added some more on. Quite simply, stuck it on, and you can't tell from the front that I have done that, can you? Which is brilliant. So I'm just tidying it up a little bit. There we go. And actually I've changed my mind again. I was looking and looking and looking at it and thinking that just needs to be stitched down. So that's what I've done. I've stitched the moon down with a little tiny bit of stitching with a bit of shiny orange thread, and now that's much better. I'm happy with it. It's done. Okay, so I confess I have rejigged this one completely. I loved playing with it. I loved where it got to with a half moon there, but it just wasn't gelling for me. So I've fiddled around with it again, and if I just put the mounty thing on, you can see, whoops, I think you can see what it's done for it. I've really kind of simplified it. The half moon was lovely, but it just wasn't working for me with these up here like that. I think they look great. They look like trees. It's like some magical landscape, isn't it? So I'm really quite pleased with how it's turned out. I've kind of followed along with this sort of gorgeous rusty colour down here. It's sort of picking up the tone of the moon. And I think it's quite magical, as I say, because of the scale of these is so way out and wacky. It's almost like they've become trees rather than sort of umbels and seed heads. So the other one I thought I'd show you, which I've also played around with, is this yellowy one. And look, I've turned it into a picture in its own right again. I've kind of, if I put this on, you can see roughly how it goes. So it's got this really busy bit going on up here with layers of these lines, and then this very simple horizontal landscape, and I've called it, would you believe, Once in a Blue Moon, because I think it is once in a blue moon. One gets to do these things and play around and just let your imagination take you. I've fiddled and faddled with these. I've put layers and colours, and this beautiful blue just came out of my boxes, and this lovely rusty colour, the same rusty colour that I used here. I don't know, I've just had the most fun creating these things. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I hope that you've enjoyed being along the process with me as well. I've got one last thing just to show you, because as many of you will know, I love my embellishing machine hugely. And what I did was I took all my scraps out of my little scrap box for this project, this series of samplings that I've been doing, and I've basically popped them onto my embellishing machine and just played around with lots of different sort of textures. I've put threads on, waste bits of threads, waste bits of scraps of fabric. And again, if I just put a little frame on there, it's nothing, it's not meant to be anything, but you know, it could be a little thing you put on the wall, it could be something you turn into some brooches, or maybe, you know, a little wristband or something. But I just used my scraps up and I couldn't resist it. I'm sorry, I haven't used my embellisher for quite a few weeks now. Oh, hello, that's the donkey saying hello to you. I haven't, just wait till they've stopped, I think. So I haven't used my embellisher for a week or so, and I just couldn't resist just having a play with that like that. So I do hope that you've enjoyed this little journey of sampling and playing around with things with me. It's been lovely to do, and it all started because I went for a walk in my sketchbook. So I hope you've enjoyed doing this with me. Maybe it's inspired you to have a go and just get your fabrics out, just play with those colours, do something you wouldn't expect to do, you know, play with the unexpected things. Allow the playing to take you on a you know, a voyage of exploration, and see where you end up. This is where I ended up. I didn't know I was going to end up here. So again, thank you so much for being here. I have no idea what's going to be next, because this has really absorbed me totally, and we're just going to see where we're at next time. So please join me again in my lovely creative space, and I will see you very soon. Have a lovely week. Ba ba da ba da ba da ba ba.